Virgo.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's David Palmer, the Leo King, and we're here live for After Dark, the spiritual talk show, which is brought to you by HighVibe.tv. Make sure that you check out HighVibe.tv and all the apps that are exclusive for you on Apple, iOS, of course, Apple TV, Roku, Android. The whole list goes on and on. Amazon Fire, of course, Fire Stick. We are at HighVibe.tv. We had just an awesome amount of people just join, and thank you so much for being here. And I just want to say before we go into the show, Deep Astrology tonight, for those that are watching on the app or on YouTube or waiting for it, there was a 30-minute sound complete muting aspect. So I redid the front. You can watch, if you're on highvibe.tv and a subscriber, you can actually watch it right now for the first 30 minutes muted and then watch the rest. But don't worry, I am coming through when we're done with this show. I just re-recorded the first front. I'm going to splice that and upload it. So subscribers, you're going to get the full show, and people on YouTube, you're going to get the show, of course, the way that you've been getting it, but it's going to be up later tonight. Tonight, we've got Sarah Paasch in the house. We got High Vibe's own Abby Moneyhun, and we got the Spirit Advisor. What's going on, everyone?
Yo, everybody.
Chicka, 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 chicka.
How are you all doing tonight?
Channeling this new Jupiter and Capricorn energy like nobody's business.
Like a boss.
Yeah,
Boom.
like my own business.
Yeah. Like a Capricorn
well,
boss.
why don't we start down the way? I mean, I feel that Jupiter's always the start of a new story. Is anybody feeling a new story? Do you feel like you're just kind of in between that cover and that blank page into the new one?
I feel the new story. I feel all the things that have been the momentum for me have just become really crystallized and are really ready to like set sail in a really effortless way, like that image of the wind catching the sail and just pushing the boat where it needs to go. And then interestingly, a fun thing is a lot of the things that I've been doing in the background, whether that just be like cooking or going on walks or maybe a couple other things that I just do to be a Pisces, those things are really, it's like they're becoming really easy. Like there's a new level of prowess emerging even from tiny momentums that I've started over the past, 6 to 12 months. Yeah.
What about you, Sarah?
Yeah, I feel similar to that. I feel like I've noticed it's like a reverse consciousness awakening where my body's intelligence is awakening on this way where it's redirecting me and my habits are forming in these effortless ways. But things that I would have thought about doing or tried to calculate, like what was health or what was self-care before, it's no longer a thought process. It's more like I'm listening in. And and that effortlessness in this way that's very efficient in this Capricorn way, like the systems are running smoothly. And it's a matter of allowing the system to run smoothly and to guide you into this new story, into the new way of even walking through your days, because it feels like such an upgrade on a cellular, physical level. So
I feel like in between cover and blank page. But I think that's Jupiter when it enters into a new sign always at 0 degree. It's trying to, especially Jupiter was just at home, so it goes into its fall position. So it's like I'm going from my best position to my worst position. But I don't think that any sign when we look at fall, like of course, it's horrible. It's about understanding how to play the game whenever a planet's in its fall position. So Jupiter in Capricorn has to narrow it down. It can't just be about just big quests of every quest in the universe. Like, you have to pick a quest.
I actually have been thinking about this in the way of 9th house, 10th house energy, where it's like you experience so much with Jupiter and Sagittarius, which I've said that to a lot of close friends. I've like 2019, I'm pretty sure I experienced the trajectory of my entire career if I do everything I'd want to do that I've thought of. But like in this compressed time reel. And now I'm kind of like, okay, what do I want to do now? And so it's taking this graduation of this 9th house experience and then applying it to start the job. And like, what's the first job you're going to start? And like, where are you going to work? And where are you going to clock in and start building that trajectory?
Yeah. What does the Taurus feel?
Aw. I have felt really wonderful. I really have felt wonderful. I mean, we had Thanksgiving and there was like all the cooking and the family and we just had a really, really good time. But I feel like I'm in this dot in time that I'm like coming back into my body or something. It's like all of a sudden, like I look in the mirror and it's like, what the hell happened? You know?
Yeah, every day.
It's like, it's been like a kind of like a wake up moment, you know, like I walk into my office and it's like this thing, it's a mess and I want it to be repainted and I want things to look different. And
You've arrived.
I want this, you know, like even here at the studio, it's like, let's get this thing popping, you know, like we need new sets, we need new, you know, getting more people in here. And I feel like very much in action, but also just like, also very empowered. But that's really recent that I have felt like this empowered. Like it is. And I think the other night when you and I talked, that was like a really pivotal moment. I don't remember what day that was. Was it last Friday?
I think it was Friday after Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
The day after Thanksgiving. It was
Or before,
Black
because
Friday,
last Friday.
No, I
Yeah,
think
it was Friday after
it was
Thanksgiving.
Friday after Thanksgiving.
And it was potent. I mean, it was like, boom. Like something really nailed me that day.
Yeah. There was a lot of vision quest aspect. And then now it's here. So it's like, I think you start to feel the benefits when you start taking steps of it.
Yeah.
And they're frustrating the first steps. That Capricorn can be a little frustrating at the beginning. Because it's kind of like, oh, it's not pavement anymore. It's dirt, like rocks. You know, it's a little clunky. Or it's metal. Or it's, you know, it's very iron, you know, clad. Like, it's tough. It's like boot camp, you know.
I was really disheartened when I heard the horoscope for the Tauruses. Because you said, I think maybe it was last week, when you said they think they've got it all figured out, and you don't. And I was like,
You're Capricorn rising, though.
No, I think what it means for Tauruses is that with the South Node there, it's like you've already learned a lot. You've already experienced so much. Don't do the same experiences again.
Now that I can completely relate to.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it is the same exact people have been, like from literally like 10 years ago have been popping in. Like randomly, just, hey, you're in California. I haven't seen you, you know, in 10 years.
I also feel like if we're going to go a little bit off the Taurus energy, if you're Capricorn rising, that makes Taurus your 5th house. And so Jupiter entering your 5th house, I just have to make this like known. There is this childlike wonder, this like innocent creative energy coming out of you that's it's like radiating. It's like fun. So I can feel that jovial fun to what's happening. And even though it's serious, because it's...
What? Uranus?
No, I'm saying she's a Taurus sun.
So that's 9th house.
Oh, hell, I liked what she said, though.
Well, yeah, then I don't know why I said what I said. Maybe it wasn't meant
Maybe
for you.
it's just like I'll take it.
No, she's got Pluto crossing her rising, and then Saturn's finally going to finish the crossover.
So really, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
No, it's the start of a complete new story, like with a lot of positive aspects to back it up.
Well, either way, I obviously have no idea what technical thing I said, why I said it, but I still think it's true about your energy. Yeah.
I honestly do relate to that. And it is a new quest. I mean, I do get that it is a completely different story. Like, there is not one thing from my life, I mean, including like close friends, it's like everything has just kind of been abolished, demolished. Like, and it's been like a slow rebuild, but it's like I can really see the benefits of the wipeout. You know, and that's another thing that I think for right now is like when there are the wipeouts, it's like, don't freak out. You know, because it honestly, like sometimes it feels like your entire life is just done, and like, why are you even here? But it's like, I can look at it from the perspective now, like it makes me cry to see the gifts that were coming. Like, okay, so like my life was completely demolished in 2007. But when I bought my house, that house was being built. My new house was being built when the other life was being demolished. I didn't know it was being built. You know, things that you don't realize, that all these beautiful things were happening in the background, you know, to come up now. And it was through faith and then working along with it that actually allowed it to unfold.
Yeah, I want to ask Dylan a question regarding maybe if it's in a different gate right now or anything that he feels. There's a lot of people out there, and I've seen this through personal experience, and I've seen this with a lot of clients lately, and I've just been seeing this over this last 2 days of Jupiter and Capricorn, that are really like stepping away from moving into things. Like, it's almost like, and I think a lot of it astrologically is Jupiter square Chiron. I think there's a lot of like doubt coming up for people, a lot of fear about stepping up. I didn't know if you saw anything besides what I'm seeing in the astrology right now of kind of a hesitation.
Yeah, just the last 2 days, Saturn moved into a fourth line theme of the 54th gate, which is all about ambition. It's that reference you made during After Dark about that person that wants to ally themselves with forces greater than themselves in order to find their way to the top. And it's not necessarily cutthroat energy. It's actually energy of service, and it's energy of being able to hold your own ambitions secondary to the service you're rendering, knowing that one day you will have your own, you know, day in the sun. But I think when we move into a fourth line phase, the fourth line is all about a fixed energy of externalization. So are you going to fix the pattern upward? And are you going to go towards enlightenment? Or are you going to fix the pattern perhaps in a more repressed or detrimental way and go towards endarkenment? And that's actually what the fourth line of the 54th gate is called. It's the most mystical line in the whole human design system.
Where is that in the human design? Like, what is it?
It's in Capricorn. It's where Saturn.
No, I mean, like, what gate in what, like, is it in the throat chakra? Is it in
It's in the root.
It's in the root.
So this is the mutative pressure to rise up as an individual form through relationships, mundane and mystical.
And then if that was to complete a channel, where would that channel then go to?
That channel is completed by the 32nd gate in Libra in the spleen, which is that intuitive awareness of opportunity and which projects, which opportunities, which relationships are going to grow and flourish. So we're talking about the spleen, instinct, just knowing, just knowing in the moment.
So there is something connected to alliances too right now on the trail.
Absolutely. It's like you're making, like, almost like how atoms and molecules make chemical bonds, and depending on the bonds that are formed, the very same atoms can make different molecules that have completely different properties. You know, you have two hydrogens, you have an oxygen, you can have water, but you have two. I got distracted by my own voice. You have some other combination, and it's like hydrogen peroxide or something, and it's like those are two very different compounds. And it's a matter of what are the properties you want to see flourish in your life. Those are the alliances that you need to make. And in a certain sense, this isn't conscious, you know, because it is in the root. This is beneath our conscious awareness. This is psychic. Psychic in the sense of like what Sarah and Abby have referred to, where the body is waking up to its intelligence now. And it's guiding you towards the relationships that will make or break, perhaps, the next cycle.
So that's on the right side in human design, technically, even though you look at it on a chart and it would be on the left, but it's really a right? Because the spleen would be Oh no, splenic would be left, right?
So
That's a lot of lesson, right? We just did a
No,
roundabout.
that's the thing about human design. Is that you got to really start
Right.
looking at it in a unique way.
Yeah.
Right, but the centers themselves do not precisely reflect the location of physical organs in every sense, because the spleen and the solar plexus, although they are on a right and left side of the design,
Right.
these are awareness centers that pervade the entire form. So your solar plexus is everything in how you take in life emotionally and on a spiritual level.
Right.
Your spleen is your whole body's nervous system and its amygdala coding of what to jump out of the way of and what to eat or not eat to keep you alive. So they may be placed a certain way, and the spleen may be on a certain side of the body, but really it's these two especially are across the entire body system.
Got you.
Yeah. Whereas other centers like the G are more centrally located, like the liver and the
Right.
lungs are here, where the G center is seen
Right.
in the chart. So you can't.
Interesting.
I have a side riff on that. I don't
Yeah,
have a human
please.
design. That's beautiful technical ability, by the way. I love that. It was masterful.
It was
That's so
masterful.
Jupiter and Capricorn. No, I was the download I was getting for December was synergy and separation. And it was, at first it was kind of this like juxtaposition because it felt like, how can they really go together? But I think there's this coming of like Jupiter Uranus energy coming in, where it's like setting ourselves apart in a way that is actually bringing us closer to the positions of partnership that are no longer in this trade. It's no longer this horizontal, like I give this, you give that, but there's nothing gained, except for that moment. And so it feels like there's this moment of the proper separation, the proper letting go, the proper kind of like Mars and Scorpio, like cut it off so that you can really open up to receive that synergistic partnership and these collaborations that together we make so much more. And so it goes from this idea of just a 2-dimensional triangle to this 3-dimensional pyramid where there's a circle in the middle. So it's like this connection is happening and it's in more dimensions than just this like 3D. I know I'm overlapping, but you know what I'm saying if you're following. But the rooms are growing, the space is growing, and the structures are becoming stronger if the circle in the center is sturdy, is stable, is in integrity. So what's the connecting force of these units? And that's where we can look at like purpose and everything you talked about in deep astrology, the parts that I listened to, spot on. It's like we have to be going after the same thing. There has to be a shared passion. We have to be on this team for something greater than each individual effort, or else the system breaks and just drops back to a flat plane 2-dimensional triangle.
I mean, it reminds me of how a clock works, like, and how the gears all have to work together, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to try and throw a gear with a bicycle wheel, like, it might work for a little second.
But you don't have to right now, and that's the best part. You can have the most advanced watch. You can have the most advanced system of collaborations and synergy, and you could actually be on the cutting edge of creating a new form of watch or clock or whatever the system is, if it's in the proper alignment. And it starts with the self. It starts with the sovereignty of the personal separation of self in a healthy way. And that's where I think this Sun square Neptune is going to come in and challenge us, because it's going to be like, not this like, this is who I am and this is what I need to do, but in this actual like proper like knowing and resonance of self that trusts where it's taken rather than trying to direct it.
Yeah, control issues.
Control issues.
Like, no.
Totally.
And I think that's the whole Jupiter square Chiron this weekend.
Together, they're
Same
doing it
time.
together, yeah.
Where there's warped ideas of self and identification of the place that you just resonated with, which I would call it like true soul resonance and being pulled in that direction. And even if it looks weird, the adventure of the risk take.
The right risk right now is so important.
The right risk is so important. And it is where we are not seeing it in our old identification aspects at all the same way, It's like it almost maybe makes you think you're crazy, especially with Sun square Neptune, right?
Yeah.
It might be like, this is crazy.
You have to be willing to be crazy, the right kind of
Yeah,
crazy right
yeah.
now. You have to be willing to stand out in that way because
Yeah.
it's the payoff is fucking so glorious right now.
Yeah, it is. It is glorious, and it is these last weeks of Sagittarius. It is this beauty. I mean, it's not over, so it's like
And it's just getting started.
it got kind of. I feel kind of bad for Sag vibe, right? Because it kind of got Capricorn kind of took the show while
yeah,
the
but
sun was in
it's Sag's second house, so Sag is getting good payout.
If
it's aligned.
what it's holding on to, and what's in the trunk and what's
Right,
not. You know what I mean?
right,
Like,
right.
if something's
What's in
bad
that
the
Scorpio
trunk
12th house? Like, what do you
and
got
what's
in there?
And then that Capricorn is if it's too much weight and it's just brick weight, just
Yeah.
nothing for it, then it's not going to go anywhere.
Right.
You know? And that's the
That's the efficiency of the system, though, and that's why if it's an authentic synergistic connection, it's like that baby runs on its own. You know what I mean? Like we don't even have to. We just turn it on and it just goes.
Abby's really good at building systems.
Oh yeah.
I was going to tell you what the galactic code is.
Oh, I was
wanna
actually
know?
going to ask you that, but
Right.
then I was like, oh, what do I ask her about? The
I love
galactic
these
code?
secrets.
So I'm
They're
glad
like
that you just
so-
popped that up.
It's
Yeah.
so crazy because, well, not crazy, but it's so perfect. Like when I was listening to the Deep Astrology, because on December 5th, we go into this 10-day period that's called activation portal. It's a galactic activation portal. And like the first 5 or 6 days of it, I think, are the question is, how do I empower myself? The veil is very thin at that point in time. It means that when we go into the way that I look, do you want me to tell you how I see a portal?
Yeah.
Tell me
Yes.
if I'm talking too much with
No,
it.
please keep
I
going.
would love for you to speak all the way.
So the way I visualize it is almost like you're getting in an airplane. You know, so like I'm flying here today. You notice how the planes go in the same patterns in the sky all the time, right? I mean, it's just like there's these roads in the sky. But I'm coming from Montana to here in this portal while everything else is going on the earth. And there's lots of things that are happening. I come here a different person because of a conversation that I have on the plane. You know, or something happens on the plane that
You're like hopping timelines.
exactly.
Yeah.
I am like, it's in a complete jump. And so this is how I visualize these portals that we're getting ready to go into, because it's a 10-day period from the from the 5th until the 15th. So the way that I visualize this is that if you can go into that time frame and know that you're in your own little cocoon, learning how to empower yourself. So all these things are going to come at you. Like it's almost like movies, scenarios of things that are going to pop up that could make you react in a way
like
that would
Meet
be
the
like
Fockers when he goes to the
Right.
airport stand,
Right.
and she's like, "Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt." I just
but it's like there's that reaction of you could have the tendency to freak out. And so it's not test. I don't like that word either, but
opportunity.
It's like, yeah. When this does come up, you've got this entire past of accumulated knowledge of how it's worked in the past when you've reacted in certain ways. So you can pull from that database and be like, no, this is how I truly empower myself. So that when we pop into the second part of the portal, it's about how do I equalize all this information to empower everybody else around me.
I love how you're doing a dropping down and also like an elevating at the same time, which is such that Capricorn image, right? And that's what I see is this like deepen your work and elevate it at the same time and like completely like go above and below.
Right.
Where
And
you're
in
at.
the physical body, what's happening is all of that energy is integrating like layer by layer. And you'll feel it, you know, like you'll feel the tingles, you'll feel the goosebumps, you'll feel certain parts of your body just like tweak or twitch. And it's just a beautiful activation of knowing. Like this is where we're actually empowered to participate in the flesh with all the knowledge that we've been manifesting. Like we've been having all these thoughts in our brain, but now it's actually going to come into our world. like where we can see it.
And is there a specific galactic code archetype for this 10-day portal?
There's one that carries it, like specifically at the top, but I don't remember what that is. It's like every day has its own galactic code to work through. And so what we're getting ready to come into is body wisdom, which is, I think that's tomorrow. And actually warrior intelligence, like the knowing, the quest that I'm on. You know, how am I going to participate in a way that I carry this knowledge? Like, it's like you're not being told anything. Like, you actually get to just, like, drop all the fear and go with what you feel. You know, like, oh my gosh, I just got this thought, and I'm going to actually go with what I'm feeling about that thought. You know, like, I'm not going to overthink it. I'm going to pay attention to every single clue that I get, because the veil is so thin that I'm going to know.
Yeah.
Like, that knowing kicks in. That, I think that's what we've got to look forward. And I think that's why it's, even though it could be frightening, it feels like all this pressure to be on the boat, it's like, it's really easy to navigate it when you can trust that intuition that's kicking in strongly right now.
Well, and when you can let it find you, that knowing, it's like opening yourself in a way where you're able to receive it. Because it feels like this dance, you know? It's like, yes, I have to be looking, but also I've got to be receptive and open to like seeing what's being presented and receiving. And so there's this duality, but so being willing to see the most abstract synchronicities and to just not contextualize or conceptualize or put them in a box too quickly, but to kind of just like, okay, I've got this.
And to know that you're not going crazy.
Yeah.
Like, when you do see things, it's like, it's okay to see weird mental pictures or to hear weird sounds, or, you know, like colors that are going to flash in our eyes. It's like, pay attention to the beauty of everything that you're beholding along the way of it, not getting distracted by the beauty, but being, you know, like in the appreciation of it.
Yeah, and I like how this really connects to what Dylan was saying about this 54th gate with Saturn, and having also, if we combine what you just said, Abby, about this veil being thin, kind of just going with what is coming in from spirit and experiencing it, but that root kind of energy, but with Saturn being like having a purpose and showing up, just showing up for it, really, to see what's there. Because if you don't show up, then, and if you don't show up in that portal, and then with Mars and Scorpio, and with all these amazing, beautiful aspects with Venus this week, like Venus is getting a lot of power. Mars is pumping up Venus. Neptune is with Venus. There's so much to say, especially with Saturn getting really close here to Pluto. Like, it's like, I don't like to say it, but there is not a lot of flexibility as far as like waiting or like, you know, there's not a lot of, and I don't like to put pressure on people, but you know, we're here.
Well, it's like
No, go ahead.
it's like, this is the way I visualize it, and it can be this simple. Is like, if you're truly grounded in, and you believe that heavens above is like connecting, like inside our body, so that we're bringing heaven down to earth, like in these physical forms. If you can visualize this, it's like ground in, and then visualize like there's this tethering system that, by grounding in from the heavens above and the earth below, it elevates your physical body so that you're able to float.
Levitate.
At a connected level that will carry you. It's not like, because I think people are overthinking what it means to, you know, like to get on the boat, to like, I don't want to be stuck in concrete, but it's like when you just know that you've done this work, or that you're willing to do the work, and you can connect that energy within your own body by the visualization of it, you're carried. You're carried. You don't have to overthink any of it. You don't have to you don't have to feel pressure at that point, because you will know, like, the things that are going to be popping up are going to be no-brainers. I mean, it will show you now, and you'll know, and you'll float to it. I mean, that's the best explanation that I can. That's how I feel like my life has been lately.
You know, yeah.
Yeah, and like specifically this week, well, first off, thinking of Saturn, it's like that is not an influence that's necessarily like rocket fuel. It's more like, okay, if we think of your most potent mystical connections, your most potent mundane connections, these are literally showing themselves right now. They are coming out of the form, Saturn, of real life, of your networks, your immediate reality. So we're not scrambling for anything at all. We're using, like in a Capricorn way, we're making the best use of what we have at hand. We are using our genius to capitalize on what's available, and it's all there. There's nothing to go run and loot the stores with to be ready for the apocalypse kind of vibe. It's really just about reaching out to who's already there and seeing who's seeing eye to eye with you. Also, this week, as we move into the 5th gate in the energy of the sun, it's ironically, it is a little bit about waiting, because the 5th gate is the gate of waiting. But the power in this gate is actually in being able to not be agitated and thus taken out of sync with the larger forces in play. And as we're still kind of near the galactic center with this energy of the sun, it's like we have really direct access to the code within the code, that genetic or divine blueprint within you that carries you, when it's fully activated and aligned, carries you to specifically where you're designed to go. And so the second that we get too mindy or we get too mental, we go into the realm of fight or flight and nervous system overload and trying to jump a gun that is not the right one to jump, or scramble to the dock and it's not even your dock, or try and go loot the stores, but it's not about what you can take home and hoard. It's more about what comes to you actually this week. So it is a vortex kind of galactic center energy. What are you pulling towards you when you're in alignment? And when can you clearly see that you create more agitation and more resistance in your world by coming from the agitated place in your action? Because any action we take this week that's not in that surrendered flow of the greater forces and the greater rhythms of life, which are far beyond our conscious understanding, they're deep within our cells, they're deep within every atom. We just have a recipe for missing opportunities, for being in the wrong place at the right time or the right place at the wrong time. So
yeah, and it reminds me of Mercury coming out of shadow this week in Scorpio, and it's been here for months. That there's been a lot of like looking and searching deep in every crevice and pulling it all in. Like this is truly a pulling in. That Mercury is not meant to right now go search for something brand new that it hasn't been revealed already. It's almost like, especially that within that cycle, Jupiter Venus did meet in Sag and dropped off Santa's biggest gifts. Like, but it's almost like Mercury couldn't understand it till it comes to this point in Scorpio. And so there's so much cross-pollination with all these situations here where, it's like, keep thinking that it's something that hasn't been shown yet. Maybe turn that around and be like, you don't know what it looks like from what has already been shown. Right. Makes sense.
Because we're just coming out of the underworld in our conscious mind, and we're still expecting underworld conditions, but actually we're coming into the world that Jupiter and Venus created while we were gone.
Yeah, there is a little bit of while we were gone in the head to understand it.
Yeah.
I love the reference of cross-pollination. I so feel like that is exactly what this galactic Jupiter-Venus gave without us knowing it. I love that. And then also, it's so interesting because you touched on this, Dylan, and it's talking about acting from true alignment. And I was just talking to a girlfriend tonight about how like there's this voice in my head that says it's inspiration, and it's like, take action now, do this now, we've got this idea. And I'm like doing all these random things, but not, and I'm like, wait, I know you're not actual inspiration. Your fear, your ego, your mind, and you're using an idea from the past or like some kind of a logical projection onto the future. And I'm like, no. I'm going to stop everything I'm doing. I'm going to go get into alignment by completely dropping out. And then once you're in alignment, it's like it pops in, you're not thinking about it, and then you let it go. And I watched myself do this unconsciously. It was like kind of masterful. It was like, I got this idea, I texted somebody, and then I put my phone on airplane mode and watched The Ugly Truth on Netflix. Turned Netflix off when it was done, turned my phone off, airplane mode. And the person had responded, but because I hadn't responded back, there was like time for it to evolve into an even greater synergistic idea. And it was like, because I wasn't sitting there watching it be born, I was like, cross-pollination, that shit's gonna plant soon. I don't need to watch it sprout. I'm gonna go do this instead. So we get out of our way in a sense, because the mind feels that control, man, that control bug is up for its very last hungry search of like, where can I insert myself right in front of you? And it's trying to think one move ahead. And it's like Capricorn doesn't need to think one move ahead. It's thought the whole game ahead. Like,
yeah, and I feel that to me, the way that I'm looking at this from all this is like, one, this is where we have to take in all these things to see what's going to happen to start the story. Because it's like the story feels in between stories. So the retrieval of what is there is what to work with and what has come into alignment, and to not have fear about putting that ink on paper. Because there's that whole part of Capricorn wanting to put it on paper. It's a cardinal sign too, which is like, you got to go. Like there is no, well, let's see. I mean, the sun and Sag is still immutable energy, and it's been squaring over to the Pisces moon and Neptune. So there is a little bit of this, okay, I'm putting it on paper, but am I doing this right or whatever? But it's like kind of like, I always think it's funny if you watch old Disney movies, it's like in cursive and like everything's unique, like even the old lettering, like storybook. But now and today, it's like pretty easy. It's like, like this Capricorn transit does not have to be some mundane, boring thing. I think that's actually the number one thing for it not to be in your life.
yeah, go big.
Is go big and go exactly how you want it to look. The control system is more about blocking yourself from it and being like, no, I kind of am so comfortable with how I have control of the way this looks, even though it is mundane and not good. This is Jupiter saying we need to revive the story. Pluto is trying to revive the story. And even Saturn's like, yeah, I'm kind of over the last 30 years, the way Capricorn was going. I got Jupiter and Pluto. It's been 800 years. Like, let's redo it.
Everyone's ready.
Yeah. And it's like, I just feel that the storybook part to start the story is this weekend with all the great Venus, all the great Neptune, all the great Sun square Neptune, all this Neptunian, Sagittarian, beautiful Jupiterian, Jupiter square Chiron. You know what? It might not look like a story you've ever thought it would. It might be weird. It might even affect people weirdly. You don't need to worry about what everybody else thinks either. Like,
Not a good thing to do right now.
that's not a good thing to do, because the one that gets to the top or wins the race never thought about second place or third place's idea of them. I learned that in racing, that you never are thinking about what the other person's doing. You just observe and go, how do I get in front of them? Or how do I stay in front of them? You don't try and think like, what are they going to do? You outsmart them by going, well, I'm going to make sure they don't get in this spot, or they don't get make sure in that spot. There really is no like, I wonder if he's going to do this or she's going to do that.
Because you stay in the game.
Yeah.
You're focused on the move, and like on your focus is on your step. So it's turning the attention back towards yourself. And that's where the Capricorn medicine of integrity and self mastery with a focus, with an aim, like a sharp aim that you're like, this direction. I don't have to know what everyone else is going to do. You just stay in your lane.
Yeah, and I feel the role model thing comes up a lot in Capricorn, but I feel like the ultimate role model is the one that proves it at the end of the journey and receives the prize. Like, we have a lot of role models in life that say they're role models, but then it's like, what do you have to show? I think it's the ultimate role models are the ones that did it, accomplished it, and were successful. That's the people you trust in life as far as being a role model. There's one thing about, like, let's say, I don't know, somebody who's on drugs all the time who's like, well, I'm a great role model because I went to, let's say, to get helped at some rehab and whatever, but I never really did get off it. But I understand it. I've been through it, and even though I'm back on it, like, don't do that, kid. Like, trust me. Like, there's those role models, right? Like you don't want to do that.
That's a hypocrite.
Exactly. There's a lot of that in Capricorn, though, with South Node.
I heard, that's so interesting. You guys are like threading a download I heard on my run last night, and it was the voice of a parent telling a child, do as I say, not as I do, and how that used to be a paradigm I feel like we lived in. I remember hearing parents say that, and it's right now, it's like, yeah, we have to be really mindful of our role models, and we have to be mindful of not just what they're saying, but what they're doing. And I think this is the magic of testing everything for yourself. You know, I mean, this is get in action, get into the work of it, and start building it for yourself to see. But Dylan's the role model expert when it comes to, I feel like, because of the human design, I've learned so much about the sixth line from you.
Well, if you are a sixth line, you have to live it. And that's down to how you maintain your vessel to be the vessel for truly role modeling something. So, interestingly enough, the role model has the biggest impact and the biggest influence, and it actually fulfills its mission of what it sees as possible when it stays true to its values the whole time. You're not role modeling unless you're living it, unless you're walking your talk. And if you are a sixth line being, you know perhaps that you have 3 life phases. You have your 30-year phase of trial and error. You have your 20-year phase of being up on the roof and crystallizing your values and weeding out the things that didn't work for you in the first 30 years. And then you get to this phase where you have to come back down into the world and really live it through your energy field, through your aura. And if you skip steps on the way to becoming the role model you were destined to be, even if it took 50 years to really mature it, you're going to feel that. You're going to feel that lack of influence or impact in your world that you live for and that you've been living for your whole life. So in terms of integrity, there is no role model if there's no integrity. And any shortcuts that are being taken are only going to hurt you.
In the long run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious what the race is all about because, it's like even you when you use the jet ski analogy, but it's like there's this whole team that's there, with support. And it feels like right now we're in this mode of like the importance of also like unification, but what is the ultimate goal? It's like, what are we all actually striving for?
Mm-hmm.
Right, because unification can't happen until this goal is understood.
Right. And I've had the wildest meditations, because I'll visualize like, how if you're clearing yourself, or you're doing protection over your house or whatever, I feel like when I do that, it's not just me, it's like I used to like do it for my house, my kids, my family, my loved ones, and now it's like, no, I mean, this is for everybody in this neighborhood. This is for everybody in the United States. No, this is for everybody in the world. you know, and it's like, no, this is for this planet. You know, like this is for this collective energy that is like steaming full force ahead in expansion. You know, this is the true manifestation where it's like, I could manifest the Jesus out of, oh, I'm going to get a new car and maybe a new diamond in a house and a relationship. But what does that do? You know,
unless it has a purpose all behind it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like to use that energy to go beyond like just those things. It's like, how would the perfect world look to you on a monetary level, or on a country level? You know, like countries getting along.
I feel like this is reminding me of, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You can keep going. You can finish.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was thinking, like, checking in with our boss. Who's your boss right now? Like, is it just a person at a company with a title? Or do you have something greater that you're working for that inspires you to show up regardless of just this one job? You know, that yes, like it inspires how you show up for every job, but it's like your environment and your external and, you know, influences aren't what's determining what you're doing. It's coming from something deeper inside of you, like a deeper faith, a deeper connection, a deeper work, a deeper value of work. And I feel like that's what people are looking for right now, is they're looking for something that is feeding their soul. You know, in the material world, they're looking, how can I integrate these two things? Because yeah, it feels shallower, it feels empty. And that's, I think, a beautiful invitation. There's a death happening kind of to this old way of manifesting or working or being motivated. And I think we're all finding the people who are more deeply motivated and in alignment with our deeper motivations. And that's where the potential is so great. I mean, we're just at the first couple days of this. We're within hours of Jupiter entering Capricorn. And
it already feels like months.
That's what I'm saying, is it's like Jupiter dropped in and time went, it like slowed down, and now we're creating this reality in this like slow motion but warp speed way. It's just, I think it's magical. It's incredible what we're.
Yeah, and I know this is a little personal because I was born with Jupiter in Capricorn. A lot of people think like, I gotta have this one road or something. But I think that I've lived proof that I could take all the things I love in my life and find a way to integrate them into one road. Like there's a purpose between my music to astrology, and how astrology works with my music, to even my jet skiing works with my astrology, and how high vibe works with me in that way, to everything in my life.
It's connected.
Connects to one road.
To you.
And even if my relationships, they have to connect to that road. My friendships have to connect to that road. The kind of vehicles I drive connect to the road and what I'm doing in every aspect, even for business purpose or even for whatever purpose. Everything that I pick in my life is all about the one spot I'm majorly hitting to create, I'm going to get a little tarot, the tower.
With a solid foundation. So it's in every action you take,
and
not
of course,
just.
every tower does fall. So one day my tower will fall. That's the other thing, is that they have to like. There's only certain buildings that make historical landmarks for a long time, and let's be honest, the pyramids have made it, the Mayan pyramids have made it, but everything else.
I think we have the potential to build pyramids right now.
Yes, that's where I was going, was that as long as there's enough to feed into the same system to hold that, because those grid lines, those not even alignments with the stars themselves, like everything is gridded, and even the energy around it and the locational aspects to the forces and beings behind it, the intention behind it is all in, which seems very Scorpionic, but with
We got
Pluto
Mars
in Capricorn and with Mars in Scorpio, there is this
all in
all in
or not.
or not. And if you're in a grace area and you're feeling like there is, like Abby said with the portal, the pull, there is what Dylan said, this I love that it connects that gate, that 54 gate, to the splenic part of the relationship elements that are in alignment with this stepping into something higher than just your everyday.
I also think that the value of owning our experiences, like, I think that there's something to be said, coming back to the role model thing. It's like everybody taking a moment to acknowledge the work you have done and the efforts you have made and the value you do have to offer by owning that stance, by embodying and giving yourself the permission to show up and be like, yeah, I have something real to offer because it's backed by my real life experience. Like, you know, not just talk, but the people who have, it's exciting on that side of it too, to have something to share that's like that kind of quality, and to have the inspiration to say, like, I want this for everybody. I mean, I know for me personally and for my close colleagues and fellow coaches and things, like, we're just getting reconnected with why we all started this in the first place for ourselves. And now it's like, oh my God, this stuff works, you know, like these changes work, and there's so much potential in applying these things to with ourselves. It's exciting, and we all have something different, some different experience, some different life, right, to bring, to share. And it's a matter of having that authentic base of all the bases covered, the different experiences. We don't all have the same thing.
Pyramids have a strong base. That's why they last so long. And a wide base. You know, a tower is pretty, like, flimsy if you really think about it. But that's the kind of architecture we have to be embodying, is the long game and the legacy game. And what is our legacy going to be based on? It's going to be, like you said, based on consciousness earned through life, through blood, sweat, and tears, through living, through being who you came to be this life in all its trial and error, in all its grace, all its glory. Mm-hmm. And that's also awareness earned, and that's awareness shared. And that's how we wake up to each other. That's how we wake up to ourselves. And that's how we open the door for other people. I think anybody that's getting placed in this kind of transit, that you're finding your community, or you're finding your foundation, or you're finding your linkages to the right spirit of people, it's so that you can give back to everyone that's not there yet and is going to need our help to keep these portals open consciously and with compassion and with tolerance.
The right tolerance.
The right tolerance, not tolerating things that we shouldn't or really can't tolerate. But that's what is happening. That's what it's all for. Yeah, it's for the whole world. And it's for the betterment of all beings. You know, all living beings, every ladybug and every bumblebee, in addition to, you know, the sentient humans and stuff. So
It just looks like sentient humans. Ugh.
the whales, the dolphins. That's what I think it's about. And that's why there are such big gifts up for grabs right now. It's not so you can Seven of Swords it and take it and run with it and, like, use it for your personal gain, because the gods will take that right back.
Yeah, they will.
It's about how we can build that Four of Wands awning to fit more people in.
You know, the base pyramid, 4 corners.
With one
But there is something to say about a lot of dots needing to connect all in synchronistic form of areas of your life to come together. But what's interesting to me too, that Jupiter just entered to 0 Capricorn, is in 2007, Jupiter conjuncted Pluto at 27 Sag, and then Jupiter went ahead and went into Capricorn, and then Pluto followed after. So Jupiter hasn't been here with Pluto that's entered into Capricorn in 2008. And so this is bringing up all the stuff that shifted in your life in 2008 dramatically, especially with Pluto's entrance into Capricorn and the whole feeling, that you went through. And that was the economic crisis fears. It was the shift in a presidential election that year. It was a lot of shifting that we are having to see that this is going to be much more of a positive shift, believe it or not, if you're willing to have learned the steps of overcoming your fears of change that started in 2008. And really be open now to understanding. And I mean, I know this is some deep shit right here, but Jupiter didn't hit this spot yet after Pluto's done its transformation. So Jupiter's you're going to gain gifts off what changed.
Like big evolution.
Yeah, big evolution. And Jupiter and Pluto are about to meet in Capricorn 3 times in 2020. So there's a lot about Pluto, there's a lot about Jupiter, and there's a lot to say about every degree that we keep going until finally Jupiter hits the spot to where, of course, Pluto hasn't hit yet, when it passes Pluto, which is going to be, this spring. And then we're kind of like, oh, okay. And then we're going to come back and really be using this as catapults to our future in many ways. So especially with all the planets coming direct, right? All we have is Uranus left, which is in the first part of January. And
game on.
It's game on. And I was saying, especially tonight, I want to get your all opinion about this, because I talked about hierarchies, but I actually am looking at this with Mars being in such a strong position, with it not, sure, it's going to go through Capricorn where it's going to be very strong, but it's going to have Saturn, it's going to have Pluto, it's going to have a lot going on. It's also going to have, some major aspects to go through. That Mars really right now is in a good space. There's not a lot of issues. Like Mars is just going to get supported in Scorpio. So it's like using this energy over this time till we get to the eclipses of do it now, because Mars goes retrograde in Aries in 2020. And it will square Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter. So it's not going to have a lot of support, and there is no fire sign energy around, right? And there really is not, I don't have the node supporting it, but this is where we got to use things, because I said tonight, and I want to get your all reaction to this, is if there's something that it's showed up in your world, as we've been all saying, the stuff has shown up, and let's say there is this Neptune energy that is kind of pushing people to kind of either deny the truth in a way or subconsciously block it, that I said that there'll be somebody else there to take that, whether it's a partnership, whether it's a job position, whether it's a project, whether it's something that, believe it or not, there is this Capricornian truth of, and I've seen it in Hollywood, I've seen it, when people delay things, kind of like, oh yeah, no, somebody offers you something, and then you wait like a couple weeks and you don't get back, and then you're like, hey, so that thing you offered me, and then it's like, I already filled the position, I already got somebody in there, sorry. There's a lot to say about right now, with a lot of that aspect of trying to delay things too much, to that there, at any point there is kind of a seize of, oh, you don't want this? I'll take that.
But could that just be a distraction? Where it's like, we think it's about this. We think it's about grabbing the job, or we think it's about that. All that could be just like this giant distraction to get humanity like exactly where a different force wants humanity to be.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really curious about, do you know why and maybe it's not the right time to bring it up, but like, look at all the kids that are playing video games right now. Like, I mean, these guys are at battle, you know, some of them 10 to 12, you know, some of them 20 hours a day, you know, on video games. I talked to the lady about it that I sat by on the plane today. Her son this age group is anxiety ridden. Like, there's so many people with anxiety that they can't leave their homes. And what it made me think is, what if all this energy, like, what if there's like a third world war that's going on right now in these computer games that we don't even realize? And there is this energetic force that's got everybody so distracted that we're missing out on the real objective. That it is really about unification and about, you know, like working together instead of like clawing each one of us individually to the way or the way to the top. That it's actually supposed to be about humanity surviving and clawing its way to the top.
Which happens in Aquarius after.
So that's to come.
That's to come. Because if you, and this is why I use the analogy tonight. So the sound was out for 30 minutes on Deep Astrology. Mm-hmm. So all the subscribers let us know, and we sent out a notification. Now, I had a choice at that moment to go, well, we'll just put it out that way, and I'll just on After Dark maybe talk about some of the stuff and just say that fulfills you. But then that also doesn't allow the YouTube audience to get the beginning intro of what they get. Mm-hmm. And I put it as a good context that there is somebody else out there that they will go get the information from. Mm. So instead of looking at this as distraction, this is a much more about what's in alignment with where you need to be. And there's a truth about Capricorn every time, because we have to use history. And every Pluto-Saturn is about, and especially, unfortunately for humanity, it's going to be real, mm-hmm. that the Pluto-Saturn does happen when the eclipses happen right before it. So right before they meet, mm-hmm. the last eclipses in Capricorn with the South Node hit. So there's something to say about it being conjunct Jupiter in its fall position. I don't want to say that there's bad luck for humanity, but there is something to say if you're not taking the better position in your life that's in front of you, that we're in a world to where reality is in a system that has been built for a millennium or more. Let's use the last time Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto met, which is from the 1280s. That system's coming to its peak to end. But if the eclipses happened after Saturn-Pluto conjunction, it would have been a much more like this thing's being destroyed right away. But there's something to say about it getting more ammunition and more power than ever. That's why I warned people, and you were there, Abby, and so was Sarah. Everybody was telling me that I was crazy to think that cryptocurrency wasn't going to take off for years to come in 2017. Remember, it was during the weeks when it was going really high, and I said, I'm sorry to say that you think that the government, the Federal Reserve, the bankers, all these people in higher positions are going to allow that to happen with all this Capricorn coming up and all that? No. The truth is that not until the end of this year, when Saturn and Jupiter leave Capricorn and come into Aquarius together on December 21st, 2020, ironically enough, exactly 8 years from the galactic Mayan shift date, that people in higher positions will still rule through this year, unfortunately. So it's about putting yourself like a 7 of Wands at a better position and taking those better positions in your life, because that creates the understanding of identification of what the goals are. When you are in a higher position, you do have more advantages in life to create better things in life for humanity, because we need more people in higher positions in this community to create the doorways that many people don't get access to. But if everybody's going to say, stay behind and say no, well, if it's just only Neo and Morpheus up there, it's a lot harder.
And I don't think it's unfortunate that it's going to take that long for the forces to dwindle, because thank goodness we have that guardian of that limitation of that time to rehearse how we're going to have to live once all the infrastructure that holds everything together is gone. Like if it were just to split apart tomorrow, that would be very unfortunate, because we as a collective would not know what to do, and it would traumatize us. So this is our year to craft our armor from being aware of our environment and being aware of what the needs forthcoming are going to be of us. What are the real requirements spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally, so that we can prepare for a different time.
Yes, and where Uranus is going is into where it was in 35 into 36 of the 1900s, after Hitler takes power and things start making some radical changes, and you add that to this mix. There's something to say about the Jews fleeing Germany when they knew they had the moment to, instead of staying. Because the ones that stayed, it didn't work out too well, unfortunately. So there is something to say about when you see the writing on the wall in Capricorn, and it's a choice, and it might seem harder at the moment, like I have to leave my home, or I have to leave, but you know that the greater risk is to stay. Because one thing, if there was a flood, you climb to the hills. You don't stay in the flood. You climb to the hills. So there's a lot.
Or you have
of
your
like,
arc ready.
What?
Or you have your arc ready.
Right, which I think that this is an arc time. But a lot of people aren't hearing the calling of the arc till the last second when the arc is full. The arc only allowed a male and a female of each animal.
Or maybe until they feel like the pressure, because as a Capricorn, I know that that's part of Saturn's medicine, even though it's kind of it could be a shadow expression if we want to call it that, is that pressure. But the contraction is actually what stimulates the labor process. So yes, hesitation can be a foe, but it can be an ally, you know. Did I say that right? Okay. Yeah, but yeah. I was going to say that the whole 2008 and then coming to now and bringing in this Capricorn. So when we think about Saturn and Capricorn ruling life and also ruling death and ruling age and time and mortality, it's like the two ways to go the Capricorn path is to either go the way where you let life harden you because you become stuck and rigid in your way of doing things, because at one point that was successful, and then that rule is the only rule, and you become stuck to this rigid infrastructure that at one point was the boss. It was like, it was successful. But we're at a point now where there's a new order. It's time to revise. And so the obstacles that we're meeting, it's like opening up the innovation to let life soften us and to actually become more open because of what's happening. And that's the other way that Saturn works out, is you actually watch Capricorn's age, and I feel like they look younger as they get older. You know, like it's, if they do it right, like it becomes that pan energy. You actually learn how to enjoy life because you're realistic about the hardship of humanity. You understand effort that takes, challenges that come, there's loss. Like you come to a level of acceptance that you don't get defeated and deflated, but you stop fighting it and you welcome the opportunity to mature. But by maturing, you actually become more youthful. So I think being stuck, getting into that controlling energy, getting stuck in this, like, this is how the system works and this is what is needed. Like, let's question those thoughts. Let's question those beliefs. And Dylan had a story post today. I remember on Instagram, I saw it, and it was so spot on to what I've been hearing, which is like, let's just question these fear-based thoughts. Let's just for a minute be like, you know, what if that's not how this works? What if this system has a different...
I know they questioned AIDS for the first 2 years of Saturn Pluto, and that shit was real and wiped out over 1 million people.
Well,
So-
you're going to be able to
so
find
Saturn-
data for either way.
Right.
But
I'm
like,
a
what do
data
you want to look
person,
for?
and that's hermetic.
But it's
So-
also hermetic for
so
supporting
Saturn,
the.
Pluto with the Uranus where it was during prison camps.
That's what I'm saying. You're
Right.
looking for. So let's look
So
for.
what I'm saying is, the only way to get there is you have to be willing to be a politician, not a literal one.
No,
but an
yeah.
undercover spiritual light worker that is not afraid to go and listen when you feel a Pluto Saturn hit, like this will not be good. Don't hesitate. Act and make a choice, because that's actually the higher realms of Saturn is
Yeah.
the choice maker, not the
Right.
hesitant. Because
Right.
the hesitants become the sheep that get
Right.
herded out of nowhere. Like, wait, I thought I was a sheep, like me.
No, it's the.
I'm just saying Saturn, Pluto.
I agree. I totally
Every
agree.
Saturn, Pluto, everybody's there's a herd that gets out of nowhere because they're not paying attention, they're hesitating.
Yeah.
But we've never seen this in Capricorn, and every time it is herded. Bad. And it's just a deep truth that I just will never,
Yeah.
like, because it's like, that's the hard part with Uranus and Taurus, because everybody really talks about this collective, but the reason why Uranus is at fall in Taurus is because the collective doesn't come together until it understands the value at the end. That's when all the allies start to get built at the end of Uranus and Taurus in 41 into 42. Like, they just let Hitler go into France and take it over and have a picture in front of the Eiffel Tower.
Well, to
No.
clarify, here's the actual post. We don't have to accept every fear-based thought we have as truth. Moments of doubt don't always have to wreak havoc in our life and invalidate our progress. We can turn these moments into opportunities where we reconnect to our heart, reaffirm our vision, and realign with our power. That's from Transformative Simplicity. So yeah, it's not about being caught in overthinking and missing an opportunity to leap or fly or not get crushed. It's about being in that non-reactive state, because there is an environment of survival pressure. And if we don't question some of our thoughts, then we are going to jump out of that natural flow that I was talking about earlier. So that's the distinction, I think.
Survival pressure. That's Pluto Saturn.
Right. But it also is taking steps to make it easier to not have to deal with that pressure.
Based on what
Staying
paradigm
ahead.
of security?
Staying ahead of, well, one is, where are you at in the hierarchy system?
What hierarchy? Whose definition? Whose system?
It's genetic in humanity, in animals' kingdoms, including even in the lobster kingdom, that there is a hierarchy, that there is a lion that is the head of the pack, that there is lobsters who are at the head, and the ones that are not are depressed, and they actually give them antidepressants, and they actually work
Yeah.
to get them back to normal.
Like, as a species, evolutionary speaking, what is the next evolution of humanity? And looking at that hierarchy, like, what is it? It's not what it's been. It's different. The power
Yeah,
structures
I
are
agree with
totally
you, but
changing.
I think that we're going to see the beast of the system with its teeth fully first.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's going to fight for it like hell.
And this is where it's like, get yourself with what universe has given you, amazing gifts right now, and don't hesitate on what they are and make action towards them, and you're going to be fine. But
Yeah.
if you're in a docile, everything's love and light, and I'm just going to sit here and do nothing, when there's a reality of like California fires, like, are you going to stand outside with a hose, or are you just going to sit in the house and wait for it to burn down kind of energy? You know?
It's
I
a
mean,
very different energy.
well, actually, that was a
docile-
light. That was a light. That was my light.
The
That's a light
difference
version.
between being docile and having a critical eye to your own mind are very different.
Yes.
So I think we can't lump them together in this conversation for the sake and to honor our viewers, because, you know, we're trying to provide tools for clarity and awareness, and not confuse actually taking a step back from your mind and being the witness of what's going through that mind, and not identifying with it and being in a docile place. I think it's very different.
Like there's discernment and choice.
That's one of Capricorn's main values.
And if not, you can call on your Virgos.
I mean, usual Saturn, it's Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, Capricorn.
It's on high alert.
I mean, this is when they sense this was the Holy Wars, the 1280s.
I feel like...
And it was the church sending Knights, Templars into battle and to hold down the Holy Land, which they weren't really prepared for the church to then afterwards kill them all. That they were sent by them. So the hierarchy won.
They weren't questioning.
They weren't quite. Yeah, they
weren't being discerning about which hierarchies they were aligned with.
But they also positioned themselves, but they didn't actually think about positioning themselves as high up as the higher ups above them.
Which is
from
what
the higher ups' perspective of like, this is higher up, but what if the higher ups and those people all looked higher up together and formed, instead of this ladder, let's actually reorienting this
now
time
you're
and
getting
space.
into Freemasonry.
I don't know what that is. You'll have to inform me, please.
You never heard of the Freemasons? Or
I mean, I'm sure I have. My memory does not retain history or geographics, but I'd love to learn if you want to inform me. I can intuitively connect it now.
well, it's the Templar Knights basically turned into a newer organization. A lot of people think they're the Illuminati, but the Templar Knights are a group of people that come together with an understanding that there is a God, but don't allow all those other people's beliefs and perspectives block from unity. But they have to learn 7 different traits, from everything from the sacred geometry to astrology to everything, and they come together, and it happens that George Washington was a Mason. The Mason symbols everywhere. Walt Disney's a Mason. Why is Club 33 at Disneyland? Because the 33-degree Mason is the highest Mason that you can get. And also the 33 parallel line of where we live in Orange County goes right through Anaheim, California, goes right through LA, goes right to the pyramids in Egypt, the 33. So there's something to say that there are, in astrology, the 29th degree is higher than the 1st degree. So like that's Capricorn.
It is higher in that sign, but lower than the next sign up. You have to be willing to begin new. I think that there is something right now, yes, to everything you're saying, there's something about being mindful of systems and the way that they work, and not being naive about, disillusionment of reality and how it works in the political. I get that. But there is something to be said about this storybook metaphor that you keep referencing, and how we're in between stories. Like collectively, we are in between a major point of our evolutionary story, and we don't know the future yet. We're in this void, and we are in this transition, and it's about being open to like what's possible. And it's going to come down to the very fundamental functioning and use of our consciousness. And if we're stuck in mind, if we're stuck in story, if we're stuck in logic, we will be stuck. And it'll function. It'll function to that 29th degree, but it will stop there. And that's successful. There's nothing unsuccessful about that. There's so much to say about that. But I think
all I'm saying is, if you're starting this story, don't write yourself as the kitchen cleaner.
No,
unless you want to.
That's what I'm saying. Like, let's not really right? Let's be real. This is real. Like that's because usually, I mean, watch Scarface, it's like, oh shit, we just got into the country and we broke out, and he got a job for me, and the first thing that he does is goes, fuck this, I'm gonna go sell coke to make some money, because that's where he gets the girls. Like
that's so different than a kitchen, and then I see like as a kitchen janitor.
If you could create, as we're talking about, anything that we wanted to and however we wanted it to, hierarchy is about understanding like why.
Okay.
Put yourself in a lower position.
No, I totally see what you're saying. Unless you're like, I'm willing to start there because where I'm going is worth the entire journey.
And the tropic of astrology of Capricorn and Cancer, the 10th house is the top.
It's the journey to the top.
Right, but it is the top though too, the midheaven. So heaven is the higher up you get on the hierarchy in life. That's what Freemasonry even understands. It goes deep into that understanding of that. And I think that that's why this is, the spiritual community is not ready, and that's why I'm giving them the bomb. Like, the world is going to get to a place to where it's like, I've been saying it for years, sink or swim.
I think the systems are shattering.
This is what I think is happening, you guys, is like what ultimately is happening is we are deciding as a spiritual community if we're warriors of light or not.
Moment to moment, not in like the...
That's what's kicking in. I mean, it's like this isn't about roses and tulips. I mean, which those things are amazing. But this is about where you're kicking into the vindication of who we are as a light being on this planet, as a sovereign, divine being that's here, that is not about hocus pocus bullshit, that it's an illusion that we're chasing after as the reality of what we're fighting for. We are fighting for dominion of light and of sovereignty of humankind. There is a giant battle that's going on that is so much bigger than any of us can even imagine.
We're on the front lines.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like if we don't focus on that within ourselves, we've missed the whole point. We can't be distracted by even worrying about the Illuminati. This is about where you can recognize where you're under attack. You know, it's like that conversation that like the other night when you told me about, the thing about demons. It's like my whole entire life, I've been afraid to say demons because I was like, ooh, this spooky spirit, freaky thing. But it's like there are tormentors in our life day to day. There is like tormentors like cancer, like pains, like feeling less than, feeling, inadequate. This is about abolishing these demons of darkness that are our inner demons within ourselves, abolishing that, identifying it quickly, and being able to move on into a space of light. Because when you take power over yourself, where it's like, nothing is going to drag me down this mountain, nothing. There is not a single influence that is going to be able to tap into this field and take away what I came here to be.
And sometimes those points are the points where suddenly you wake up to how much you want to be alive.
Exactly.
So there's a gift in that. And I do think that that's happening right now. I do think we're at a point of crisis where it's like, are you here?
It's being aware.
It's awakening everyone, though.
That everything that comes up that seems so, like that thing said, even like habits like biting your nails, or like worried about acne, or worried about our weight. It's like there was my sister-in-law, she walked by a mirror, caught a glimpse of it, and she said she couldn't even have fun after looking in the mirror. And it's like those are the tormentors, like these gangs of inner demons that are tearing us down.
It's the mind.
And this is to me, this is the battle that we're fighting right now. This is the race. Like this is the vindication that we've all been like hunting for and begging for, where we actually see what we're made of, where we see our inner constitution. Have the knowing that we are going to make it because we are lighting up. I don't know how that fits in astrologically, but I just know for myself, that's the powerful vindication of being able to climb a mountain. Because when you can knock out any of those inner demons, any of the voices that we hear, and know that we can rebuke them, and own our power, that's when we climb.
Yes, I love that.
I'm like, mic drop.
I'm like,
let's go.
And I think that's the power I'm talking about, of what to show up for. But there's something to say about I'm just going to get a little Leo.
Yeah, I do.
I predicted Trump way before, and people thought I was crazy. I predicted cryptocurrency not going off for 2 years. I predicted a plague showing up at the end of 2019. I hope people trust me when I say that when you look at what the astrology is showing, that unfortunately, it is where people seize the power, but they have that power that you of conviction and not only pushing those demons out, but then using that energy towards achieving the position to where they want to get their message out. Now, whether that's good or bad, Hitler did. FDR decided to run for a third term in Uranus and Taurus, and Jupiter and Saturn conjunct, and got it, the only president to have a third term, who went against Washington's moral code, but it wasn't in the Constitution, but did. That's what I'm trying to say. It's those that actually step and create the rules and know how to move through the system, know how to shake the right hands to do the right light work, that are gonna make the most impact, and also not be affected by December 10th, YouTube is gonna kick people off now that are not commercially viable.
Yeah.
I have made sure through everything on my YouTube that my YouTube is completely commercially viable. I even went in their back, they just added all this new thing. I made myself more commercially viable on Super Chat. They're gonna start charging people for chatting.
Yeah.
So I've turned all that stuff on for them so I don't get kicked off YouTube. But censorship is the biggest thing of Saturn, Pluto, and Capricorn. It's censored the Templar Knights. It's censored all people from listening to what religion they want to do. If you don't follow Christianity, you're dead. And I know that we don't want to be in fear, but we have to deal with the reality of astrologers. There's data, and it's just gonna happen. The recurrence, and anybody can rebuke me unless they've made predictions in the press, in the media, and they've all come true, including the Queen. I said that the Queen this year would talk about resignation or resign, and it was literally a day after last week's deep astrology when I went deep into it, proved that when Jupiter was in Capricorn was the last time that she was known as the oldest queen, and based off her chart, that this thing was going to be over, and the next day, boom, she's announcing that she's resigning. She's moved all the things over to Charles. Charles is going to take over the throne. William is going to be in second in command, and it's already being in the process of moving now. And she hopefully wants to make it for 18 months. We'll see if that happens. But I called that to the day.
Yeah, we need to get clips of all of that.
I'm like, to be honest, I'm frustrated when I get people in the chat or people, and I just have to let this go. But the spiritual community doesn't want to hear truth. They didn't want to hear me when I said Trump was going to win a year before. They didn't want to hear that. They didn't want to hear that I said cryptocurrency was going to be a fucking flop for 2 years after 2017. They didn't want to hear that. Nobody wants to hear Saturn and Pluto brought AIDS. Saturn and Pluto brings plague. Nobody wants to hear that stuff. But in astrology, there is a black crayon. And this is the blackest of crayons and the blackest permanent Sharpie marker. And unfortunately, I am a mathematician and a Hermetic astrologer, and the Saturn-Pluto happens after the eclipses. That means that they haven't finished their journey of conjunction point yet with these intense eclipses with Jupiter here in its fall position. And I'm sorry to say that it happens 2 days before the last eclipse. We got screwed by 2 days. So that means we're gonna have to go through that picture that is right here, if you could change it, Jax, to the middle, that we are gonna go into the beast. If you go into the app, we're gonna go into the beast. And whoever knows how to go through the beast the best of the portal, who has to know how to, with YouTube, I know how to be commercial viable so I can stay on. If you don't have 10,000 subscribers and you don't know how to monetize your content and you don't know how to make it good, this is Capricorn stuff, you are going to be kicked off YouTube.
Right. But that's the stuff I'm trying to bring
up. That's the stuff I'm trying to bring up that nobody's wanting to face that truth.
No, I think I want to face it head on. The difference is I want to face it with empowerment. Like I want to look at this. I want to look at astrology for what I consider it to be. is like this giant GPS that says, I think we've talked about that before. We're like the road to Hana, you know, in Hawaii. If you go to Hana, you have to sign a rental car agreement, and it says, if you take your car on these roads, you're not going to be able to have insurance for it. You know exactly what you're going into, but you don't not take the ride because you know that you're going to see some of the most beautiful, incredible stuff along the way too. And it's gnarly. Like when you're on that road, there's times where it's like, what am I doing here? And I think that's the point. I love being able to hear your predictions, because then I can face with a new set of eyes. Like when stuff happens, I don't feel afraid, because it's like, if the astrology says this is what's going to happen, then that means it's okay. But now how do I go through this empowered?
Well,
like to
Neo,
be able to
when
make
he was
it.
with Morpheus offered him a red pill and a blue pill. Said you're going to have to go through the experience of the red pill, but didn't tell him everything. Gave him just a little bit. It's the empowerment you find within yourself, knowing the calling of taking the big risk and the step. So as people are saying here, and thank you for all the support, by the way, everybody, but we'll take the YouTube thing, we'll take anything. It's like those that know how to work the system will be okay. Those that don't are going to need to find people that can help them. Because when you start to see censorship, you can go out and try and go something right now, but the reason why High Vibe was started 2 years ago was because in that fire with Saturn and Sag, I knew this is the open door, the opportunity, there's a future, and it's about preparation. Yeah. That the preparation was already enacted, and it was already, and look at all the media, because I've been in media my whole life. Apple, why do you think Disney Plus just went out right before Saturn and Pluto conjunct, and even Jupiter leaving in? Why do you think? At the same time, Apple Stream went out. Everybody's placing their placements to capitalize and to save their sovereignty. Why do you think the Queen and Brexit, it's such a big deal? Do you think that there's a coincidence of Brexit and the Queen shift in within a week's time? December 12th is the election, going to be for the whole entire country about which party's going to rule to define who's the prime minister and define the whole government, and either go through with Brexit and fast track it before January. That's the plan. So it's about looking and seeing how the world works. That's Capricorn. And how you are going to fit through it correctly as a ship navigator. Because if you can't look that far ahead, if you can't look at the fathoms of a map, that Capricorn rules the map, and you're just going to look right here and not see the whole picture and not plan ahead and be like, yeah, the weather's usually bad here. It's a Lewis and Clark journey. Like, okay, like, it's going to be snowing. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. You know, like, no preparation is insanity, especially at a time where we're at a time that's opposite of the Great Depression with Pluto that was in Cancer, where there was no jobs and people were just fighting to get bread and food. But now everybody is like, there's enough jobs, so I'm okay. There's a little bit of a laziness because of the fact of to get to the position that will make your life better and be part of the journey, because we talk about light workers, we talk about the community, we talk about that, but who's going to really go up to the top? Who's going to be part of the system? That's what Neo had to do. There's no way to destroy the system without Neo getting into the system fully, all the way to the main computer and plugging in.
And I would like to say that we are just beginning this journey. And this is like, we're speaking really far ahead of like the whole thing, which is really, that's powerful Capricorn medicine. But I feel like where we are right now in this conversation, I feel that this is a great ending point to this beginning of this conversation, of this energy. I feel like,
well, the truth is it already started.
Yes, this is our first conversation about Jupiter and Capricorn.
No, what I'm saying is the second it goes in, with Saturn Pluto, it activated something that we have never seen in 800 years.
I guess I'm saying I'm saying that I think
So
the
that means,
conversation
like,
point is like
That's
this is a great
this
time
is-
to.
I'm glad you brought this up, and we'll end it this way. But I think that this is where my frustration comes from hearing that, because of the fact is it's giving more people leeway to not act or to feel like, oh, when I just told a reading today, like literally, if they don't make this choice, I'm not going to get personal about it. Literally by Christmas, like it does not look good for them at all in their life. Like there is no time. Like, and I'll be that guy forever, but I have proof, publications, television, predictions that all came true. And a prophet at the end of the day is going to be a prophet and has backup and will make, I am doubling down on my bet and I know I will win.
I don't disagree. I'm just saying I feel like it feels complete right now. I feel like this message feels complete. I feel like it feels delivered in this way that I don't necessarily think there's more debate to have about it right now. I think it's a great moment to conclude and like we have what we need. We're ready, you know?
We'll see. Sometimes it takes Martin Luther King to tell you, I have a dream multiple times.
Yeah.
So you actually do something, because that's the problem, is a lot of people just sit around and play around and
I have
They
one
don't
more
do anything.
question about it. I just have one more question about it. Can you tie in how wasn't it in 2015 that you started talking about the concrete?
it was 2016 with Age of Deception. And
So
then-
is that when it started to set?
No, it was about Saturn in 2018 when the concrete would start to be laid. But what the fact is right now we're surrounded by wet concrete and Jupiter just came to dry it up.
I see why you're putting out an urgent message on it.
Because it's been for years.
Yeah, because
Like it's not like I've been doing this just for a week or like
No.
a month or even a year or like and in 2012 there was only like 5 people doing daily blogs and videos about the whole Mayan calendar shift and to change your life and to be ready for this weird moment, and I was there. And I'm here for this moment again, and I'm back into that same vibe again because that's how big of a shift it is. And, you know, like I was honest, and the fact that it's gonna be unfortunately extremely beneficial for those that get it, and for those that aren't, it's going to feel like they missed something, and that's what's hard. Because Jupiter is at fall, and so it does not give everybody everything. It only gives those that understand it and understand a game. Unfortunately, Capricorn's a game, but it's a real life game. And it sucks because I know it's not easy for a lot of people because a lot of people are stuck in emotions and comfort and cookies right now.
Well, David, I remember back at that time, because I think, you know, you and I had a conversation then, and I didn't take seriously what you said at that point. You know, like I was more into the, you know, like airy-fairy, you know, like I can manifest anything. And so I went really light. You know, like I was going through my divorce. I didn't take action like I should have. I didn't stand up for myself. I didn't want to be harsh. I wanted to be loved. I fucked myself. You know, like, I mean, at that point in time. Now's when I'm reaping the repercussions of it, you know, of all of that. And so I see why, you know, because like even in something like that, am I, you know, like I'm still in a good position. It's not like I am, you know, I didn't die from it, but I could be in such a, I could have made a turn then where I could have had those few years of feeling like I was in a better state and I would be more empowered now.
Right.
And so I think that's why, your message is so urgent, because you see how easy it is. It's just one little small thing that you could be standing up or defending or vindicating yourself with.
It really is about showing up fully and making a decision and sticking to it. And being all over the place right now is a boat to nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think it's like it is time to get real, and it is time to use this wisdom of death, of like, yeah, this is one life you get to live. This is, and not just like to get through the hierarchy, to get a certain job or a certain status or certain distance up, but like, what if you didn't have tomorrow? And the truth is that we've lost people in our lives where like they didn't have a tomorrow. They didn't plan that. They planned for their whole life, but they didn't plan to die. So it's like, yeah, let's get real with your life. Let's find some deeper meaning with what we're doing, and let's make choices now, not put them off, not wait for a better time, for a safer moment in that regard. It's like live on purpose right now. And I think it's urgent. I think it is urgent that we wake up to living with purpose and intention and not putting that off, whatever that means for anybody. And for somebody, it might be a car. It might be a job. That might be what they're here to pursue and that decision they need to make. Everybody's got something different, but you know what the calling is. Deep in your bones, you can feel it. And yeah, act in alignment with that. Don't put it off. This is not the time to put off what you're really here to do. I agree with that.
Yeah, it's just been a very hard message to hold for so many years. And put out it for a long time. And then when it finally comes, this is what Spirit told me this weekend, like, I can't, this is where I'm gonna end it, is that it's already been set. People are, like, there really is not a lot that is left for people to kind of change. That's why I'm kind of like, you know, like, it's already been said, it's already been, the writing's been on the wall for so long. And, you know, like, it's interesting, we're in a presidential race right now, and Kamala Harris dropped out today. Bloomberg has entered in, put 35 million in. You gotta start paying attention to these things and how they reflect in our reality about who knows how to see the opportunities, when to seize it. That's Capricorn. That's the patience. When to strike, when to take risk, when to not. Understanding the governments, understanding the world. This is a world card moment. Mm-hmm. And the more somebody understands the world, the farther they go, and how it works and how it operates of all systems. And really, that's the true core of success or not success, of defining in those hierarchies, which I believe 100% that after these couple years, once Pluto leaves Capricorn, that those understandings are going to be changed. But we're not through with them yet. And we also are going to see the peak of them come. So during the peak, I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of people who had to live underneath houses during the 1930s because of the weird stuff that was going on of people using these moments and actions to their advantage. Or seeing the writing on the wall and not having to go through that. And that's something that people aren't seeing on the wall, especially with an election year. And unfortunately, the election's in November, and it's with Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn, and Capricorn. So,
it's a split. This is a split that you've been talking about. So it's like, for each one of us, like, we could be in that portal. Like, we could be in that like fifth dimensional portal, and we could be living with somebody that's not. And I think that's what's going to be really weird to see too. You know, like the people that are in our lives, it's like we can want more for others so much in our heart, but it ultimately does come down to a choice. And we're not responsible, you know, like you have, like you've put the message out, and as these things unfold, the thing is going to be for each one of us that are aware to hold the vibration as high as we can, you know, because that will negate some of that lower energy. It's very important to stay aware of what's happening and to not go into fear, but to make the right decisions, to follow our guidance, our internal systems, to make the tough choices, to know that we do have a support system. You know, like if there are the inner demons, then there are the inner angels, and there's a capability of making it through. Maybe we did just come here to watch everything fall apart, but I don't think that's, you know, I don't think that's the ultimate goal. And I think there will be some of us that go on into this world, like you say, on that boat. And that's what we've got to strive for, is just living the best life that we possibly can in any circumstance that's there. And know you've done your best. For you, David, you've got to know you've done your best in giving the messages out. I mean, there's no way anybody could have said it more.
But that just is the starting point now. I mean, my teaching is through Capricorn as a Jupiter Capricorn. My Mars is in Scorpio conjunct Saturn. I am not here to play around with fluff. And I come from a Leo truth as the sun rising in Leo with the brightness, that this can be fun. But you have to be smart enough to understand systems, and instead of watching maybe some stupid video, maybe you should learn about the world. Maybe you should learn about how to make your life better instead of living in shit. And that's a hardcore truth that people don't want to see, that because no matter what system falls, in every culture and in every hierarchy of the universe, there's winners and losers. And that's the hardest part of Capricorn to lose. We'll close for you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Everybody, thank you so much for being here on After Dark. I appreciate you all being here. You can join us on highvibe.tv to check out our apps, and make sure that you check out all of the amazing content that's on there. And you can get my daily videos if you want guidance to help you through all this Jupiter Capricorn stuff, and the weekly for your sun signs, and the weekly tarot, and the weekly intuitive, and all the other people that are on highvibe.tv for their awesome stuff. Thanks so much for being here. Deep Astrology will be live later tonight. I got to edit it right now. And, of course, back on High Vibe on the app for those that get it full. So make sure you subscribe if you want to watch the full thing. If you thought tonight was a great show, wait till you see what I have to say on Deep Astrology. Thanks so much, everyone, and I'll see you all on the next show. So this video is going to give you the tools, it's going to give you the steps, it's going to give you the questions for you to ask yourself to prepare yourself. It's going to give you my opinions on what best course of action to take. And you can take it or you can leave it, or you can take parts of it or none of it. To me, as long as you're willing to listen, as long as you're willing to hear me and take it in and ask those questions, do you want to be in it or not? Like that's what the call is. And that is, I think, the deepest part of this energy, is when people start going, I want the energy to go back to normal. You want the energy to go back to where you don't have to participate in anything anymore. And you just want to go sit back and watch the whole show. And guess what? The universe is giving you that opportunity here as the build up to 2020. But do you really want that in your life? Is that really, but I'm not saying, maybe I'm saying that because I'm somebody who feels that I don't want it, I don't want that. So I can't judge you for being in that space. But I can tell you from an astrological point of view that sure, it might feel more comfortable to be in that space, but there is going to be something of not being fulfilled.